Hey friends, thanks for joining me, Jim Baroud, to hear a few insights from leaders who represent our innovation ecosystem. Today's chat is with Jeff Braverman, the chief nut and founder of nuts.com and Kopper's Chocolate. Thanks for taking the time, Jeff. Tell us, tell us you have a remarkable story. So go ahead and talk to us about that.
Sure. So, and people could see my background, right? Yeah, okay. So that's literally the old nut store from Newark, New Jersey. That picture is probably in the late 1920s or early 1930s. So, yeah, I have the fortune of having a family nut business. My grandfather started a little nut store in 1929. And it kind of stayed that way for about 70 years or so. Um, I grew up working. It's funny because you mentioned, hey, it must be crazy. It's actually like nuts, literally. Right now, every day is like Christmas. But I have fond memories as a boy. I would go to the store, especially ahead of Christmas, because we'd be really busy in the retail store. And it's one of the things in my family. You just work. You show up. You may not get paid, but you show up and work. So yeah, always had this small little family nut business. Had tons of adversity over the years in the business. It wasn't. It was probably okay in the 40s, 50s, and so on, 60s maybe. And then it was just like a tough business that kind of had fewer and fewer employees. My dad and my uncle went into the business just because they didn't want to see their parents work so hard. And I never expected to go into the business. Again, my dad kind of hated it. It was hard. Newark evolved a lot. It used to be this thriving marketplace, and open air markets and politicians, and everyone would come and shop. And then a lot of people moved out of Newark, and we had fewer and fewer customers. So little retail store had to evolve a little bit into a wholesale business just to kind of stay alive. We got bulldozed twice in Newark. But for me, I didn't see the hardship. After we got bulldozed the first time, we had to move into this like indoor mall that my dad, my uncle, and the meat market put up. Well, that foreclosed. And that's not a good thing growing up. I remember when I was 9 years old, we couldn't go on vacation because my dad was just too stressed because we were about to lose the house and so on. So, okay, never expected to go in the business. It was just fun. I would show up, spend quality time. Behind me in that background is my grandfather in white. He mellowed out. He's a pretty tough guy, like a kind of, you have to be to survive and take care of so many people. But I would go spend really good time with him, go work as a little boy, go on Saturdays. He would take me, again, he mellowed out. He would take me to the diner. That would be unheard of, to leave the store ever. You work, you eat standing up type of a mentality. But I'd spend good quality time with him. Work the cash register. So I was 7 years old. That's what you do. You work the cash register. My cousins would come. I'll play with them. We had, most of my memories were half the store was the little nut side, nuts, dried fruit, maybe 100 different products. The other half of the store was a little grocery store. I hated that grocery side. You have to rotate canned goods, not dusting them. Not my cup of tea. So yeah, no expectations of going to the business. And I'm a freshman in college. And in 1999, I'm the second semester of my freshman year, I said, this internet's a pretty interesting thing. Maybe we could sell nuts online. And that's kind of what we did. I put together a little business plan. My family had never seen a business plan. I got a budget. It was like $500. Doesn't get you very far then. Nowadays with Shopify and so on, it's really easy to start a website. Then it wasn't. I just came home from school, took the pictures, I wrote all the descriptions, nuts, and I launched nutsonline.com. Nutsonline.com wasn't my first choice for domain name. It was actually my seventh choice. The previous six were all porn sites. And I didn't have any money, so I didn't even think about buying nuts.com, for example. I'm learning about advertising online in college. That was my freshman year. Sophomore, I'm figuring out what to do, figuring out how to rank organically when you could manipulate the heck out of this stuff. If you want to rank number one, you could, which is pretty cool. Figured out what did work, what didn't work, banner ads, this and that, even before you could pay Google. It's actually sad. Tony Hsieh, who just passed away, I used his company, Link Exchange. That was one of my first ways to get customers. I think he sold it to Microsoft. Then I went into I went into investment banking, just like all of my peers. I went into investment banking when I graduated college. I gave that about 6 or 7 months, and I felt like unfulfilled. I wanted to really build something, and I joined my small family business. To give you a sense of small, it was my dad, my uncle, and 2 employees. The great thing is everyone's still in the business. Those 2 employees are still in the business. One's still our delivery driver, and the other one we shifted to our chocolate business. He helps on the production side. But when I told my dad and uncle I was going to come into the business, they literally said I was nuts. I was 22, doing great in my career, making more money than they were, and it was hard for them. So that was like the beginning of this chapter we're still in now. I could go on and on, at length, but I looked at this as, I didn't know the internet was going to be the end all be all for us. I dove in and just applied common sense and visited some of our wholesale customers, visited our suppliers, talked to all 2 of our employees, ate some humble pie as I just learned the business. I'm not a good salesperson, so when I went on the road trying to sell wholesale, we buy a pallet of cashews in this nondescript case, going and trying to sell that, not my cup of tea. I was not good at it. I'm shy. I don't like doing that. So I said, okay, ultimately I realized, hey, we're going to be really differentiated what we do, and we're going to be the best online retailer in our space. And off to the races. I read all these books on customer service, and I built this business around, frankly, me. I'm a customer. I liked eating this stuff. I wouldn't eat a ton of it growing up. For holidays, my dad would bring home some nuts and dried fruit and so on. Or if I went to the store, I would eat a little bit of it. Growing up, nuts weren't perceived as healthy, and my mom was pretty health conscious. So we actually didn't have a lot of nuts in the house. But I liked eating this stuff. And to me, it was just really common sense. I am the customer. So I'm going to build a business around who I am and what do I want? I love great quality. I love great service. If there's a problem, I want to be taken care of. And I want I want it fast. So, right, the Zappos playbook. I actually, years ago, probably about 12, 13 years ago, I was so impressed with Zappos. I wrote to the company, and I was, fast forward a couple of months, and I was in Tony Hsieh's house outside of Vegas, learning about how they deliver, happiness. So we expanded product. We listened to customers. We went from 100 products to thousands of products, and just kept on pushing the envelope. We've currently, so again, we have thousands of products.
Jeff,
Yeah, go ahead.
Pause you right there.
Yeah, go ahead. Go. Yeah.
You've done something. I come from a family business, and I know businesses are the sort of the backbone of most countries, including the States. So what was that? And there's so many dynamics going on, right? Most people who aren't in family business don't understand them, but that must have been tricky, right? Coming back, from a high-paying job into a family business with different dynamics going on. Can you just sort of take us through that, some of what you went through and overcame?
Correct. Yeah, 100%. So for me, I was uniquely situated. And some of this, if you were to ask me, the gift I was given was for all my dad's stripes, he ultimately gave me the keys. But I had a role reversal with my dad, because in high school I was already helping him manage his money. So it's like a really unique relationship that most people don't have. Typically in a family business, you have I mean to be gender neutral, but you could have a very strong patriarch or matriarch who is reluctant to cede control, no matter how big or small this business is or was. So I already started off in a unique position where, like, my dad trusted me with stuff most parents wouldn't talk about, finances and stuff like that. I already had that exposure where literally I was managing his money. I built this website in college, right? Didn't get paid a penny. And I did well academically, did well professionally, and so on. So there was all this extra element of trust when I came in. But you still have to earn it. And overnight, yes, I remember early on, I said, we need to get QuickBooks. Dad, you're like retyping these wholesale invoices in Excel. Like, there's no accountability. This is awful. Like, and QuickBooks was $299. And my dad said, no, we'll wait for business to get better. And I said, Dad, we're buying QuickBooks, and he actually went along. There were examples where, like, the store, we were always open. One of the few times we ever closed a store was in 1967 when there were a lot of racial tension, and the National Guard came by on a tank, in tanks in front of the store. My grandma said, we're closing early. Like that's like the only time you ever didn't work. You know, and here's an example where my family learned and appreciated from certain decisions I made early on, apart from just, you know, the growth in the business. We worked on Saturdays, and there were 4 of us family members in the store on a Saturday. We were probably making $2 an hour. Like, not probably, I did the math. We're making $2 each an hour. It's like, that's not a lot of money. I said, we're going to close Saturdays. My dad and my uncle, no, just start with a half a day. My uncle couldn't sleep the entire week leading up to that Saturday. We come in, I said no, and I laid down the law, right? So they listened, remarkably. We come in on Monday, and my uncle says, that's the best decision we've ever made. And this was now, you know, 15, this was like, I don't know how many years, 17 years ago or so. And with that, my dad and my uncle got their life back in the community with their wives and so on a Saturday, where they never had that experience. So you gain a lot of confidence pretty quickly. It also worked. So I started doing stuff they didn't understand, and then it worked. To be clear, that first year I would go home crying, because I would tell my dad, you want to be my dad outside of work? You have to be my dad at work. This was like a dysfunctional, my dad and my uncle lived in the same room until they were like 25 years old. They went to college and, you know, lived at home. They then get married and move to the same town. They commute in the same truck to work. This is not healthy, right? And then they're in this, we had a retail store with a little office above. I mean, this is a cursing, screaming environment that I didn't like. So I would cry. When my cousin came into business, he would cry. And so there were plenty of challenges. I'll show up in a second, but when I came into business full time in 2003, finally I realized the plan is gonna be the internet. We'll have this great marketing plan. We're rewriting the tech stack or redoing a bunch of the tech. And we launched on December 4th, 2003. And it's like flipping a switch, like the faucet, you know, floweth over, or whatever the expression is, the cup it floweth over, like boom, business goes up. I don't know if it was 10x, 20x, something exponential. My dad says, shut it off. I said, maybe there are a few expletives in there, but it's like, no, we got this. You can go home. You know, and then it just worked. So it wasn't like overnight I became the guy in charge. But I'll tell you one other thing. It wasn't a good business. It wasn't a very profitable business. So the thing I did was I took no salary. I came in and I took a draw, which, hey, this is going to be an earn out based on incremental profit. So like, it was pretty hard for my family to say no to anything like that. I mean, who does that? I mean, I took 100% of the risk, but then it just worked. And when things work, and then even my uncle, right, just respected me. So certainly unique circumstances, but you know, proof is in the pudding. If the money didn't come, right, who knows what would have happened. So ultimately I was just lucky because, you know, I'll add one last thing. My dad had no say in this business. My grandfather ran this business with an iron fist. Change was anathema to the family. Even my uncle was so reluctant to change. You know, my dad in the 70s, I think, said, hey, we should have display cases in this old store. You shouldn't have to ask by name, like, oh, I need pecans, like out of the shell, whatever. Like, you should be able to see it in the display case. It took my dad about 5 years to get that through in their store, to give you perspective. And one of the things he said was, he doesn't want to ever have a kid go into the business, because he kind of had to come into the business. But he always said, if my son or daughter were to come into the business, I want them to, you know, be able to express themselves. So for my dad, all his flaws, right? Like that's what he empowered and enabled me and us to do this.
I'm so glad you spoke about that, Jeff, because that sort of illuminates for folks that aren't familiar with family business some of the dynamics that go on.
I've had to lock my dad and my uncle out of we have these badges to get into places. We had to lock them out. We did it reverse, lock them out of the plants because they're old school, right? And certain things aren't acceptable these days, but yeah.
Got it. All right. So bring us back. I cut you off. I know you were talking about where you are, I guess, today, as far as amount of products.
Yeah. So, you know, the one thing is, again, we listened to the customers. There wasn't a grand plan. I've learned a lot over the years. I used to say, hey, I always heard this expression, man plans, God laughs. And then I kind of revised it a few years ago. It's like, well, you should still plan. And then COVID comes. It's like, oh gosh, like plans are kind of basically worthless, but then you plan really aggressively. And I could get to that in a little bit. But, you know, there wasn't a grand plan for where we're going to go with product and line extensions and product, you know, new product offerings, but like, you listen to your customers. You know, yes, I was able to use a keyword tool on Google before anyone knew these things exist. Actually, it was a predecessor to Google to know. I didn't have to do customer research or anything. I saw what people were searching for products, and I would just sell it, right? Bring it in, had certain basic heuristics or metrics that we wanted to achieve for return on investment or whatever it happened to be. But I was out to dinner with, this is over 10 years, probably 12 years ago, I was out to dinner at a birthday party, and the girl sitting across from me says, hey, I have celiac disease, and it's really hard for me to eat gluten-free snacks. I said, wow. A month later, I had 700 products. We separated production. We had 700 products certified gluten-free. And we just and I was like, well, okay, where's the basis? Where's the kind of the core of this? And I actually built it around almond flour, and a wheat alternative. Now it's ubiquitous. It wasn't then. It was actually a byproduct. I could buy that for pennies on the dollar, because it was when you get like sliced almonds, you know, that you put on salads, these were the crumbs that went to the bottom. It was basically free. Not free, but I think I was paying 50 cents or $1 a pound for this stuff. That became our number one selling product for a bunch of years. You know, organic, you know, I wanted to be different. I said, we're gonna take a position on organic. We have such an extensive organic offering to this day, and we always will be in stock. Like, we will air stuff in from Australia and make no money just to protect and take care of the customer. So yeah, again, no grand plan. It was like, how do you be different? Right, we're going to decommoditize commodities. So we did it in a really effective way because we bought the best quality. We raised the bar for a lot of the market, and we wouldn't sacrifice. And, you know, I'll take an example. This was years ago. This is probably 15 years ago. I'm in the little store in Newark still before we got bulldozed a second time. And the date, like Medjool dates, like a fresh date, you know, type grower, he would dry the dates for us. He happened to visit us. We were too small probably to merit a visit, but he was just visiting other companies, other customers in the area. And he came and visited, and I said to him, I want better. We were buying extra large Medjool dates. I said, I want better. Our customers deserve even better. He's like, no, there's no such thing. He's like, maybe I could grade a jumbo, but like, waste of time, no one's gonna buy it. Do you know how many jumbo Medjool dates? And now with COVID, we supply prisons with this stuff too, right? It's not just ordinary consumers, but like, I don't know. I can't even guess, but how many millions of pounds later of jumbo Medjool dates? So like, you have conviction, again, because I'm the customer, you treat others as you want to be treated. You know, we built our business around similar to apples. Like, you could actually have I just did undergraduate business, but you learn about core competencies and so on. It's like, well, customer service can't be one, but kind of Zappos kind of challenged that. And I like to do that too. So yeah, we started shipping late at night. When I said, hey, I want to start shipping later into the evening, as I started learning some of Zappos tricks. Sure, I ran the night shift with my cousin and we started shipping late on a Monday night. You know, now we're going 7 days a week, but now we've got 4 distribution centers. We're likely going to open up a 5th. So we punch above our weight class, because the business of our scale is now much bigger than what it was before COVID, you know, but like, we invest in the customer, and it's been a phenomenal journey. Exceeded any of I had very modest expectations from this little business. And it's been really rewarding for me. But let me shut up. Ask me more questions.
No, this is great. You said you had 700 products that are gluten-free. So then that's amazing. How many products overall do you have?
I think now it's somewhere around 4,000. Don't hold me to it, but it's somewhere around that. I mean, it depends. We've got this chocolate business, which then not all of that's sold on nuts.com. So it's probably then more when you think about the two. But give or take, it's only thousands of products.
So who is your competitor then? Is there one similar competitor independent, or is it the bigger ones?
Yeah, it's tough to say, you know, because, you know, obviously Amazon's everyone's competitor. So sure, but I think like food is such an intimate thing and people deserve better. You don't know what you're getting on Amazon. I'm sure you've experienced that. You know, I just bought, I was actually I've got a lot of kids, and I had one of these, you know, I ordered a tent, one of these cheap little tents, $20 tent. And I was playing with the kids a couple of weeks ago, and like, my fingers started hurting me. And I realized there's little metal shards in the wire that was exposed, like slicing my fingers. It's like, you don't know what you get. So Amazon's obviously going to be everyone's competitor though. You know, for us, I think we've got a great point of differentiation where quality, you know, is exceptional. And we deliver on it all the time, or as much of it as we can. You know, I would say, look, there's always been all these little competitors, you know, copying. Years ago, I never heard of it, and I started selling chia seeds. I heard of chia pets, and chia seeds at that point became our biggest selling product, and I never had heard of it. Then you see like all these little nut stores on, you know, online selling chia seeds. It's like, oh my God, I launched, there was an esoteric tech, this guy, what's his name? It's called like 4Q or something like that. I don't know if you know this guy, Avinash. I forgot what his name is, but it was years ago. I launched this survey because I thought it was interesting. You had to be like a tech geek to appreciate it. Suddenly, all these little nut sites online are doing the same survey. I'm like, okay. So people would copy a lot. I would say, like, look, I love Trader Joe's. They've got we're deeper in our assortment. They're broader, but I envy Trader Joe's, and I think that's like a good competitor. They offer great, pretty great quality and so on. But right, we focus much more inward than outward as we think about this.
Got it. So the pandemic, clearly great for business, but talk to us about those early days. I mean, this is this is something that no one really expected. Tell us about how you responded.
Yeah. So we were not fortunate at all, but we had a early glimpse. We buy some stuff from overseas, and our chocolate business. Here's the first read I had. I noticed something was wrong in February. Maybe it was earlier in February when in our chocolate business we have packaged product and so on. And I think it was a customer in Singapore sent us a picture saying your chocolates are feeding people in quarantine in Singapore. I'm like, what? I said, I only heard of Wuhan. What the heck's going on in Singapore, right? We've only heard about what's going on in China, right? Nothing to do with Singapore. So it's like, what's going on? Like, what don't we know, right? No conspiracy stuff, but like, what's going on here? We then, started beefing up some supplies. We get some stuff out of China. We started, moving aggressively. So we're a little bit ahead of the curve. So that by the time stuff started popping here, we already had something in mind. I remember I was at like some event on must have been the 28th, February 28th, where I wasn't being probably that nice to people sitting on my table, but we were working on an email. There was an email going to come out from the company from me. And we were split, our executive team, there's 4 of us. It was 2 against 2. And then I just said, okay, I overruled, but or I had my vote count more. But like, do we send an email to our customers saying nothing, like not a direct response or anything, but like stock up your pantry? So we said yes. So on February 29th, we sent an email like stock up your pantry. And I think we said no, we waived ship, like it's free shipping no matter what. Holy crap. Okay. And then it's like, oh my God, what is going on here? Like, we didn't anticipate this. Okay. So then sales start going through the roof. Like, we just can't keep up. Where we call in, we have a bunch of developers, engineers. We bring them into the plant to help pick orders because we can't keep up. I go full. I was going then. It was probably like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. picking orders. Like, that's pretty tiring. And it's like, this is unbelievable. Like, whoa, this is like unreal, having no idea what's going to come. And you start hearing, well, masks, don't wear masks. It was really tricky. We couldn't get masks. We had beard nets. I have people wear beard nets. And then because I figured maybe that could collect some spit, whatever. You have no idea, right? There's such little information at the time. Then I found myself touching beard nets. I said, everyone kill the beard nets. And we shut down our Jersey City headquarters as we sense what's going on. So we're really early with this. We sent everyone home. And I start, focusing on safety within the plant. Me, myself, normally I'm not in the plant. And I'm like headfirst in the plant, giving speeches 6 feet apart, kind of starting to make up our own rules because we don't know what's really coming. I remember distinctly, I went to our chocolate manufacturing area. I spoke with that whole team. I was like, guys, you're not taking this seriously. Like, the time to panic was, so this is in second, third week of March. I said, the time to panic was 2 weeks ago. We're beyond panicking. Get apart. Like, this is like really serious. This is going to last for 18 months. Like, I made up a number, but like, I'm probably right or whatever. Like, right, we're going to have to push through this. And they were like, still not taking it seriously, all on top of each other, so on and so forth. Fast forward 3 weeks and 95% of them don't come in. We got to a point where we have infinite demand, seemingly infinite demand. And at our lowest point, we had a 70% call out. Some people got sick. We have a large Hispanic population. We're in Cranford, New Jersey, so they come out of the kind of the Elizabeth area. which obviously, as we know in New Jersey, got absolutely devastated. The Hispanic population in New Jersey got devastated by this. So we certainly had some people get sick. Then you couldn't get tested, so you had no idea. But then so many people were scared. Heck, I was scared. And I remember that one Monday. I mean, I was on the verge of having a nervous breakdown, because this is a challenging thing when like you're physically holding down the fort. My CEO friends in New Jersey were like, Jeff, you're the CEO of a company. You need to go home and protect yourself. And I'm like, no, I built this business and these are my people, and I'm never going to have them assume risks that I'm not willing to take. I need to lead from the front. I speak Spanish to some extent, so it's helpful too. They call me upstairs. We have different levels. We've got this mezzanine structure and where we pick and pack the orders. And they call me upstairs, and kind of like and I'm busy working. So then I come up, and it was kind of like a harsh tone. They're ready to go, like walk out the door. And so I had to give crazy speech, and then I had to give another speech to the other side of the plant, but basically saying, we are an essential business. We are staying open. Your families need it. Look at the community needs this. Look at the volume we're getting. If I can close, I'm scared, I can't be with my family right now. So I have a guest house out back. I lived in the guest house for 3 months. I wasn't with my family. I didn't hug my kids, for literally 2.5 to 3 months. I said, if we were able to close the plant for 2 weeks and this would all be gone, we'd do it in a heartbeat. But it's not. This thing's going to go on. And you know what? If we're not there for our customers in probably the greatest time of need in their lives, they're not going to be there for us. They're going to go to Amazon eventually. Well, Amazon wasn't shipping then or whatnot. So and this is hard as an entrepreneur to turn away business. I've never done this in my life. I'll work 200 hours a week. I will rise to the occasion. It was impossible because now our business at our scale, I can't be a one-man army anymore. Right? I had my number 2, my number 3, all my senior leadership team. They're in the plant with me, physically doing stuff. We had to do crazy things like store hours. Our developers were coding like, when you're this busy, there should be code freeze, right? Like right now we have code. Well, we're supposed to have code freeze. We're coding store hours. Capacity constraints. We had to create minimum order values. We stopped advertising, like not just advertising the paid stuff. We stopped sending emails to our customers for a period of time. The first day we opened up for store hours, we opened up, I think at 8 or 9 a.m. and we were open for 70 minutes. We hit our capacity. We tried to scale. We brought in agency temps, but the regular workers were scared. They didn't want to be near them, understandably. So we put that on a night shift, but then the leads got scared. We put on 100-person night. We had no night shift ever. We put on 100-person night shift pretty quickly. The leads got scared. That collapsed. I'm just like, gonna have a heart attack here. It was a battle, right? Ethical decisions every single day. So I'm literally picking orders. So like if you got an order from us in April, May, June, shipping out of our New Jersey facility, I'd probably pick that order. Like I started pretty much every order, the way our system works and so on. A woman across from me, not in her mid-40s, but she has asthma. We sent her home because we felt it was too risky. That meant I had to pick her, do her work. We sent home, right? There wasn't great guidance, 16 over. At first, I sat down with the 16 over. I said, you guys we're going to take care of you. You guys, my advice is I really want you to go home. I didn't force it. Not one of them left. They said, we are going to stand here with you, which is like a really proud moment for me. 2 weeks later, we sent them all home. Like we couldn't take on that risk. And watching the people, like, it was unbelievable, the pride, because people knew this. Like the country needed us. We saw this. Like, and I know that sounds hokey and like you could say, hey, saying you're an essential business, yada, yada, yada. But like, do you know how many of my friends who never once bought from me, ever, then are like, when is the store opening? Like, people needed food. My wife, it's ironic because I have a online food business, and my wife, I was like, why don't you just order groceries online? Come on. Well, obviously, she went to ordering groceries online because, right, that's what happened. I was reluctant to give the kind of hazard the COVID pay because I didn't want to have sick people come to work because you create disincentives. Or the wrong incentives. We eventually did it because, like, I realized that people, their spouses are out of work. They needed the money. They didn't have time to go shopping. We actually sent them home. Like we don't sell chicken. We bought chicken. We put together boxes. We sent all our people like huge amounts of food to help feed their families and so on. And we did a couple other brave things, which I'm really proud of. I had read that 120 something thousand kids in New York City, once the schools closed, because they were reluctant to close, their only meal a day is at school. So I was like, well, what can we do? We're in a food business. We contact Feeding America. We say, hey, we got food. Can we get you food? They're like, well, it needs to be packaged. We're like, oh, because the problem is we have no workers. And what happened was, you can imagine when the baking craze hit with the flours, we sell tons of flours and yeast. I'll make up a number, but pretend sales go up 2x, revenue goes up 2x. Throughput, number of things we were selling went up 3x because we're selling a lot of cheap stuff. So we're like Feeding America. We can't pack anything. We don't have any people. So instead, we donated about $100,000. We did this whole matching thing. And we also found that we want to do more because we thought we were uniquely positioned. We did pick stuff that we could package on a machine, but we had some customers send stuff to hospitals, to staff at hospitals. So we saw this. I even had a former employee do this. And we realized we're really uniquely positioned here. We said, we're going to send on our own dime, we're going to send a care package to every hospital in the country. Mind you, I didn't know if we were going to go out of business at the time. So these were like really brave things. And we ended up sending to like, I think it was like 6,500 hospitals. And the letters that come in from the Midwest that say, no one cares about us, no one knows about us, like, right, you've just made our day. And it's like, what? You know, like, what? Like, okay, you know, really, really proud moments. So fortunately, we scaled a second, so that night shift collapsed, we scaled a second time. As we did it, like the temps, what we did was, I'm in the picking area, I got the temps. I came home one day and told my wife, yeah, I was like, we had masks and everything, but like, I'm showing them we have scanners, I'm teaching them how to do it. Like, I'm like, you know, not forget out 6 feet, I'm within 6 inches. And so on. I was like, I think I screwed up today, but I don't know if I got it or not because whatever. We scaled successfully. We saw an opportunity in the market. And I don't know if you've seen it, but we launched TV. We launched TV within 1 week because I realized everyone's watching TV, they're stuck at home and there's no advertisers. And I like those opportunities. It's not arbitrage, we're not buying and selling, but like you get it. There was a dislocation in the market. We leaned in. So if you see us on TV, you know why? And we got a lot of learnings in while we could afford to, where there was greater efficiencies. Now the market's returned and we're still on TV, which is remarkable. So yes, we leaned in. We were actually not handling the volume. Like every day's been Christmas, which is absolutely crazy. We've kind of been at, I don't like to use necessarily a war, but like we've been at war, and it's like remarkable to see how everyone stepped up across the entire organization. You know, we've had to hire in the plant. We probably tripled our number of employees in the plants. We've hired maybe 500, some remarkable number of people we've added. People who ask customer experience, the people who answer the telephones. I don't know, I'm making up numbers, but hire an extra, you know, double, triple type of number of people. So everyone throughout the organization, whether they're in accounting or in the plant, have stepped up, you know, so remarkably. And you know, part of my feeling is like COVID was terrible. We had an employee die. Like that's what started the hospital. We actually donated the first care package to that hospital. I forgot to mention that. So COVID hit us really like, right. We know where things are going in infection rates because we're like the microcosm of the country. But it hit us really hard. But then we felt like, you know, we deserve to win. We deliver. When Amazon, don't you remember when Amazon, it was like 2 weeks or a month to get stuff? Sure, we started saying we were going to ship 2 days later. We still got 50-something% out that same day. And it was me and you know, volunteers. We had to bring in corporate volunteers to help the remaining staff. So like now we feel like we have a place. Our quality is exceptional. Our assortment's great, and we deliver every step of the way. We deliver. We're shipping same day. We are gonna, as long as the carriers, they're struggling, the shipping carriers, but we're gonna ship December 23rd. We'll get it to you the 24th. So like we feel this is our moment. We kind of earned this right.
That's great. I mean, that is so harrowing what you went through. You know, I'm so glad you're telling this story because people just don't realize it. When you're behind the scenes, right? Supplying the community, the country, the world, what goes on. And, you know, thanks for your leadership. I mean, that's so impressive. Now, other entrepreneurs going through this downturn, right? Clearly, there's so many challenges. You know, you obviously responded really well and almost killed yourself doing it. But, you know, what do you recommend? You know, why don't you know, share with us, you know, just one tip you would say to all, entrepreneurs who are listening, how to respond to a crisis?
Yeah. So my first answer, and it's independent of a crisis, is focus. When this thing hit, so I've gotten distracted a little bit over the years, where I've got restaurants and swim schools for kids and so on and so forth. When this thing hit, it was laser sharp focus. People, protect the people, my people, the safety, right? I became an SOB in that plant, like yelling at people, right? And I retook that up in the last couple of months because I knew this wave was coming back. But right, focus, all right? Like, right, there's nothing like focus. And I look at this, whether it's COVID or not, this country is amazing, right? Look at the business starts right now. It's, I think, the most business starts ever, which is remarkable. Like, we're going to bounce back, but it's also a very competitive place. If you're not focused, you're going to lose because someone else is going to be more focused. I know I have restaurants where, like, it was a side gig. You can't have a restaurant that's a side gig, right? If that, right, or you need someone in there that it's all they do, live and breathe. So I think focus, it's very easy to get distracted, but if you want to be your best, there's only so many things you can do. Look in the, I don't know how many developers would be in this audience, but like, it's like switching tasks. There's all these studies on, like, once you start multitasking as an engineer, like, your productivity goes way down. Or the same thing for me in my role, it was like, protect the people and ship, right? Anything else, I don't want to hear about it, because this is all we're gonna do. And for example, I had a restaurant in my town here where I live, and we can't open it. What I do, I hired the people to come work for me on the night shift, but like, I can't let anything distract me. I would just add one other thing, because people always ask. I started with that thing, man plans and God laughs. You could never have a plan for something like this, but when it hits, you need to find the space to still then plan. I had a friend, I was sounding the alarm to lots of people early on, where I had a friend say, oh yeah, he's planning for like a recession, like 20% hit to revenue. His business bounced back, and it doesn't matter what his business is, but he went down 95% for his revenue. But then it's like, for us, what we started doing, because it was hard, because in the thick of things, we're just physically working. Like, I was working probably 60+ hours a week physically, and then at 7 days a week, and then having to go home and work. But right, we found some space to be able to focus. And what's the plan to get out of this? Because you got to be able to pick your head up. You got to find that space to then say, how are we going to execute? Because, like, this was tough. Like, we were negotiating with our operators, our managers. They want to do less, we want to do more. But right, we weren't going to get anywhere until we put together a plan, and we broke it down into the fundamental parts of our business, which we thought we knew our business, but it comes down to, you have filling of bags. So we do, what I didn't say earlier is, this was a good and bad. We control much of our supply chain. So we're manufacturing, we're roasting, we're mixing, we're packaging. So a lot of other guys just get the finished product and are reliant on the other someone else. No, we do it in-house. So as long as we had raw materials, we went. But like, okay, it's about production, filling bags, shipping pieces. This is kind of how this boils down. But you need leads, and you need a certain, like, this was crazy. We didn't have leads. So you need a certain number of leads and ratios, stuff that just we had, but you don't think about. How do you build a night shift? There's certain fundamental things you need for a night shift, and so on. So we broke things down, put together a plan, how we're going to get out of it. We negotiated, because ops wanted to do less. We wanted to do more, marketing and so on, and commercial wanted to do more. But like, we put together a plan. Has it been perfect? Our productivity is terrible, but you know what? And that drives me crazy, but you know what? Right now, in these thick of things for these weeks, I don't care, because the opportunity cost, who cares? We're running overtime with temps. Yes, it makes me sick to my stomach because it's so expensive, but the incremental contribution margin is absolutely massive. So when the shit hits the fan, you got to deal with things, but you have to find the space to then come up with a plan.
Yeah, clearly that makes sense, right? To focus, number one, and to plan. But never stop. You always plan, right? But the focus is critical during that crisis phase. But regarding the longer term, you're obviously, Christmas is every day now. How do you see e-commerce playing out? Everyone says that after this is hopefully over one of these days, in the spring and summer, do you expect business to stay super high? Do you expect people to go back shopping and retail, or is it sort of somewhere in between?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in between, right? It's hard to change behavior. So there's a natural tendency in humans to revert to the mean. That being said, I think there is somewhat of a structural shift here. So this COVID bump that a lot of businesses are seeing, yeah, of course, some of that's going to have to settle down, you know, but you'll get some stickiness. So like the baking craze where suddenly everyone became a baker, because look, we know this. We were selling, I'll make a product. We can sell an esoteric flour and we're selling a 100 pounds or 1,000, it doesn't matter, but 100 pounds a month. We were selling that every 4 hours, right? Flowers, I just knew that people search for them, but I had no idea what they did. We sell, baking flowers, we couldn't keep in stock. You're getting 10,000 pounds, it'd be gone the next day. So look, I think you're going to get some stickiness for some of those more esoteric things, but I think this accelerated what was inevitable. So it's one thing, if you were to ask me what's going to happen with housing in New York City, I don't know. Right? Are some more people going to work from home? Yeah, for sure. But is most people still going to want to go back to Manhattan at some point in time? Yeah, probably. Just human nature. I feel like e-commerce was just inevitable. Adoption was just inevitable. So I think we've seen an acceleration in penetration. So like now there are talks about like online, we're in the grocery space. It's gonna, I don't know if it's gonna go up double or more than, go up 150% versus 100% in the next 5 years. Like, yeah, I think that's all gonna happen. So I think it's accelerated some of this stuff. The esoteric behaviors likely will settle down, but for me in my business, we've been given a gift. It's been a tough gift because most other people in my situation, I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back, but most other people in my situation wouldn't have prevailed because if I didn't build the business the way I did, I guess it's kind of like it exists because I am who I am. Because if I didn't speak Spanish, would I have built a workforce that's Hispanic? I don't know. But if I had listened to my CEO friends, the plant would have closed. I'm certain of that. But otherwise, this has been a gift, and these have been tremendous tailwinds for us. And we were positioned, so a lot of luck. We were positioned, of course, in the right place. We then went very aggressive on our marketing, so we leaned in, figured out TV, and so on. But now it's what are we going to do with it? So will we still grow if we just pause a little? Will we still grow a lot next year? Yes, but at some point that growth will settle. Will settle down, and it's well, what do we do? What do we do? We need to inflect, again. So yeah, some of these, you see a lot of these CPG brands out there, or these deals going on where these valuations are super high. Well, if they've already been selling in the supermarket, people are hoarding. Like you can only eat so much, right? There's been a shift away from restaurants, but come on, like when the vaccines are out there, I have perspective. I own a restaurant in Union Square in New York City. It'll be our best year likely ever because people are and it happens to be this outdoor thing and whatnot, but like, right, people are gonna revert. They're gonna, and then some. But I think online is here to stay. Will it give up a little bit? Sure, but I think it's been a massive accelerator.
Got it. So there's a couple questions. Let me just, one is very basic as far as what programming languages did you use when you built nuts.com?
Yeah, so I wasn't the programmer. I'm trying to remember because I found a kid at college. A buddy of mine's roommates who I got to build the first version of the site. What the heck was it? All I know is I don't remember the first version. I remember I launched the second version, which had much more of a database backend, but we used it was called Free Trade, which was some open source engine we used. So unfortunately, I don't remember the original code base. The interesting thing is my second programmer I hired when I was about 18, he lived on the West Coast. He moved to Jersey City a few years ago, which is something I would never expect. And he's still with us, which is super exciting. So we could ask him that question.
But regarding those, I mean, these days, there's so many options, right? I mean, most entrepreneurs don't need to be coders. They could just use platforms like Shopify or there's so many others, right? That's just one. Is that what you would recommend for anyone looking, if they haven't already digitized their business or starting a new business, what do you recommend?
Correct. I hate to use like these buzzwords or acronyms like MVP, but like, you don't need perfection, or a lot of this stuff has been solved. Look, we end up writing almost all of our code, front end and back end. So when we ship your order and manage our distribution centers and make mixes and stuff, it all flows through our own software. the front end was all off of an open source engine. We then made the decision in the last few years that we went to, it's a product called Commerce Tools, off the shelf. It's a headless, I guess, stack or a headless engine, and then we write all of the interface and stuff like that on top of it, the front end on top of it. We just realized we're not in the business of writing e-commerce software. I loved it as we built this business because it gave us massive flexibility, but then the markets come. So like, to answer your question, 100% use a Shopify. You could all launch Shopify. I've done it. My chocolate business, when I bought the chocolate business, I was like, this website's like from really dated. I did it myself, spec'd it, hired a company, spent $3,000 and launched with catalogs and tiered pricing and all this stuff in 3 weeks, right? So like, there's no reason not to use Shopify. Don't engineer it. You know, I've struggled with buy versus build decisions all over the years. Now the front end is gonna be more about buying and this, you know, adding that special sauce. The back end, we'll see. It's just so unique to what we're doing that we're likely going to continue to code it. And that I know, right? It's been cool. We write on Ruby on Rails, but now it's like, you know, it's all hard because when you're doing it yourself, like it's so much, like we have so much technical debt too. It's a constant struggle because I'm looking at, we're in code freeze right now. I was just literally looking at the call it a Kanban board in Jira this morning, and it's like, yeah, upgrading, you know, because you have to upgrade to the next, I don't know the terminology, but you're upgrading to the next, you know, version or whatever. It's like, oh crap, you know, you don't really have to do that as much if it's a Shopify. It just kind of, it kind of happens. But I think like speed to market matters. I've built a lot of stuff on perfection. You don't always need perfection. You know, you could get 90% of the way there. That last 10% is really hard to solve. So forget it. I don't love MVP, but like, it's good to make sure you have proof of concept and you have a real business, right? You know, before you go and invest unnecessarily.
Yeah, let me, here's a Rutgers professor has a comment, and then I'll ask this next question. All plans have assumptions. Crises cause us to dig deeply into those assumptions, make new ones, and see what difference it makes. Would you agree with that? I think it makes sense, but.
Yeah, no, of course.
So here's the question. Besides Zappos, what other companies inspire you, and about how they deliver superior customer service?
Yeah, good question. So the first, when I came into business full time, I mentioned I read books on customer service. So I read The Nordstrom Way, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with Nordstrom, you know, where you hear the story where someone returned tires to Nordstrom and they gave them a refund, but Nordstrom doesn't sell tires. Right. Obviously mentioned, you know, so like Southwest. I read all types. I'm trying to remember back then. It was like Nordstrom, Southwest, people who delivered exceptional service. Obviously, everyone knows about Zappos. You know, Amazon, right? Amazon to me is an inhuman. I don't like it because it's like this inhuman experience. But look, Amazon set the bar, right? You get your stuff and you get it super fast. So like they've created I started launching my distribution network before Amazon got like, you know, 2-day and all that guarantees and stuff like that. You know, so I was a little bit ahead of it, but now Amazon set the table stakes for many other people. You know, I'm trying to think, you know, I think a small lesson I learned. So here's a funny story. So, and not to knock on Men's Warehouse, but right, you know, I would get suits from like Men's Warehouse, right? You don't, right? That's fine, right? And I was going to interview for investment banking jobs in college. Actually, I think it was for my internship. I was interviewing, and a guy, like, it doesn't matter what firm it was, but they an obnoxious person turned around my tie to see where my tie was from. Okay, investment banking could be pretty extreme like that. And he's like, "What?" He's like, "You got to go to Brooks Brothers." So I'm like, you know, insecure or whatever. So like, I go to Brooks Brothers, or whatever it's called. I think there's one, and I went to school in Philadelphia. So I think before I interview for like the full-time jobs. And I go there and I think, and this is the first time I've reflected on this in years, I never appreciated, I grew up really, really frugal. I'll call it even cheap. Like my dad is very frugal. Let's put it this way. I like the idea of cartoon characters. I felt it resonated really well with with myself. So I started putting on packing slips. If you see our boxes now, and we rebranded to nuts.com, it's all about these characters. I wanted to put characters on the packing slip into boxes early on. My dad said, no, it's too much ink. It's too expensive. I just did it, but like, you know, like that's where I grew up. That's the mentality I grew up with. But so I'm cheap, super cheap. I went to Brooks Brothers in college. So I'm a senior, right? And I got like it was refreshing. I got service that I didn't think I would appreciate or value, right? Because you could ask me even after right before I got married, I had a fight with my wife because we were flying to Japan. And I told her my indifference point, because I think about things super rationally, was $200 for first class, because I just didn't know any better. Turns out a long flight like that, it's worth more than $200, right? And she won the arguments, and one of the few fights we ever had. And I was like, you were right. So I went to Brooks Brothers, and I just it was like this such human service where like the person was like my friend and super helpful, like where I was a young kid, didn't know anything. This person, and I was like, people will pay for quality. People value quality. So I think that's just like literally just came to me, hasn't come to me in years, but like it's little epiphanies like that you kind of like tuck away. And that example I told you with the jumble medjool dates, right? It worked. Sometimes it's like custom, people don't know, like me, I didn't know what quality was until I was shown. So like give people a taste of quality. And for us in our business, go eat our nuts, right? Okay, sounds funny, but go eat our supreme, right? You've never seen cashews like this, our supreme roasted cashews. I like them with salt, but right, you eat that, it's like you're not going back to the other stuff that's been sitting on that shelf for 6 months and so on. Our thing is, it was funny when I was picking orders early in the pandemic. We were turning over stuff so quickly because it was such a shift in demand relative to supply. I was picking orders, and the cashews in the bag were freaking hot. It's probably not great. They're probably still roasting like a little bit, still cooking, but like unbelievable. So I think that was just a good example.
Well, speaking of product, what would you I'm getting hungry. I'm going to order something today, Jeff. What is the most popular product, or one or two most popular products?
Yeah.
And what do you recommend for someone who isn't a customer already? What product would you recommend?
Yeah. So organic mango. So believe it or not, our best seller is a dried fruit, organic mango, hands down. So like this is like, realize like fruit, it could, you could eat it one time and it could taste different another time. It's not always like that Snickers bar, but when it's good, and it's good now, but when it's good, there's literally nothing better. One of the few things better than that on earth, where like I've been to the farm. We're anal about it, so we get a specific varietal, and we not only you have to get it early in the season. So actually leading it in COVID, we had to make decisions. We had to predict what we were going to sell. This was hard. In May, we had to predict our yearly volume because you have one shot to get this. We got it. We were pretty good on the numbers, which I don't know how we did that, but we had to buy probably over $1 million of this stuff. Okay, that's a lot of money, even for us. That's a lot of money. That thing is really freaking good. If you haven't eaten a really great dried mango, then you don't need all the sugared fruit and so on. So that's a great seller. Look, our classic stuff like our salted cashews and some of the much more conventional stuff like the salted pistachio is the great seller. For me, so I've got a sweet tooth. We also make the chocolate. If on TV, you may have seen some commercial, we have some reviews and they mention a white chocolate toffee cashew. Unbelievable. Our ultimate, okay, so I'll brag. So, because this is our chocolate business, we make ultimate malted milk balls. So you've had malted milk balls before, you eat a few, it's kind of boring. You know what I mean? It's got the malt ball center and it's got the chocolate around it. So ours has 3 layers. Ours has, and we have an all natural malt ball. Like we're always doing better than what the competition is. But we have 3 layers. We have dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and white chocolate. So when you bite into it, you've got to like appreciate the artsmanship, the craftsmanship. So I would say you can't go wrong. You get a lot of value for what you're buying. I love, look, there's a huge range. It's difficult because if you look, last year when I went hiking with a professional group and they're like, bring the snacks. I was like, this is because like you step out of character and like out of body experience. I was like, oh my God, that's the best site ever. But where do I start? Because we've got energy squares and all these other crazy things. You can make your own trail mix, which is super cool. Right now what we're selling tens of thousands because this is the moment. When I was in freshman in college, I said, you know what, if you could customize a computer with Dell, why can't you customize a nut tray? So we have custom trays. We're selling tens of thousands of these things where you can then, so go through that interface. It's very, tech people would like it. It's pretty good. But you can pick certain section, each section and pop stuff in there. So look, you can't go wrong. And if you don't like something, you come tell me. You come tell me, we will make it. I will make it right.
Wait, just tell me, where is the farm?
Yeah, no farms yet. The which farm?
Oh no, where is the mango? Where are the mangoes from? What
Oh,
supplier?
these mango, these are from this variety is from Mexico.
Okay.
These are imported from Mexico. We have such great relationship with the supplier where they give us first dibs. It's really, a wonderful thing because we've been in business for a long time. We didn't sell organic mango until I came onto the scene. But like sometimes we're their first customer in the U.S. Well, who do you think gets the first dibs? We sometimes will get bad stuff. Okay, I guess maybe this is recorded, but we'll reject a load. We'll say this mango's no good, and it goes to Whole Foods.
Oh my God. All right, listen, Jeff, we're winding down here. Close us
Yeah.
out with a poem, please.
Oh, okay. Here we go. The acorn. An acorn on an oak tree grew. The wind blew around him. The wind around him gently blew. It whispered to him quite softly, "Someday from your mother you will be free to grow and be a mighty tree." Who? Me? A mighty oak? The little acorn thought this a joke. Cruel autumn wind whistled round and knocked the acorn to the ground. A little girl passing by, the small acorn she did spy. She picked it up, but let it fall down a nearby rabbit hole. All winter long it lay inside. Soon it withered and turned dry. In the springtime, a shoot of green from the acorn could be seen. It grew and grew as years rolled by. Soon it reached up to the sky. So it was a tale come true. A mighty oak from the acorn grew.
I love that. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please like it, leave a review, and subscribe. See you soon.